Yes, my name's Randal Pierce, and this is Jeffery Noland.
Hi there.
And he brings with us today a rifle. It's certainly an East Tennessee rifle. It's a fairly later rifle. This trigger guard looks like it could have even been replaced. So, but it sure looks like it's from this area of East Tennessee, maybe even Sevier County. Tell us what you know about it.
Sure. This was given to me, actually, even a better story. This was sold to me by my grandmother, who gave me the money to buy it from her. So it wouldn't cause any controversy within the family before she passed.
And who was your grandmother?
Lucinda Oakley Ogle.
There you go.
But she says this is just like the rifle that Wiley's holding in the photographs. But this came down from my grandfather's side of the family, from the Earnest Ogle side of the family. Okay. As I understand it, this was Burton Ogle's rifle. Okay. That would have been Wiley's grandfather. He's buried in Sugarland Sugarland Cemetery. Okay. But the story of that is that he was too little to take the rifle. He wouldn't let it. He was worried about inhabiting it and taking care of it and things like that. And he said, when you're big enough to carry this rifle from my house to your house, which was only a couple hundred yards, but there's 2 foot bridges between there, without letting it touch the ground, you can have it. So he made many attempts and failures to take this rifle home, and
as a youngster,
and I guess finally Burton was ready for him to have it. So he sent an ally, a friend of his, along the trail to meet up with Ernest, my papa, and take one end of the rifle and let him carry the other end. And they got it to his house so he could have it. So,
well, this is what we call a half stock, meaning that the stock only goes halfway out the barrel. Earlier in the history of these old rifles, most every rifle was a full stock. The wood would come out to the very end. This one has a iron butt plate, and we see some extra filing here showing craftsmanship. And this stock was probably made with very few hand tools. Probably a rasp and a knife were used, because I still see knife marks where the wood was smooth with a sharp knife blade.
I can see that.
And it's never seen a piece of sandpaper in its making. And a nice cheek rest, and it has the classic profile of an East Tennessee rifle. I wouldn't be surprised to find that this trigger guard has been replaced, because many times, my guessing, I should find a steel
something would match
trigger guard that would match the butt plate.
Yeah.
But those got separated, and you can see there's a little extra room here around where this trigger guard could have come to. And a cast pewter nose cap makes the transition from wood to metal here. And we might accredit it to Sevier County with this pointed tang, 2 screws holding the barrel into the stock. And the Gibsons here in Blount County and the Douglases in Cock County, which were apparently friends and acquaintances through the trade, both used this characteristic. But this is a very finely made butt plate, which was characteristic of the Gibsons and so.
What kind of wood?
Pardon me?
What kind of wood is that?
It's walnut. I would say that 2/3 of our southern mountain rifles used walnut wood, which was in contrast to those rifles made in the Northeast, in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Virginia, where they primarily used maple.
Yeah.
And we have maple mountain rifles, but probably the majority are maple. And this rifle was apparently made percussion, so that means it was made after the middle 1830s, but could have been made any time after that, because once the style was established, with this profile and so forth, it changed very little from the 18-teens until 1870.
They just followed that same pattern.
Yes, and this brass trigger guard was typically available here in this area after the Civil War. We find a few rifles we think are earlier, but when we see spurs like this, we typically think these parts were coming out of the Northwest and even sold in hardware stores.
Really?
So if this rifle had been damaged and the trigger guard lost or taken off and misplaced,
they would have had
replaced, then a brass trigger guard would have been a perfect replacement for that part.
I sure appreciate that.
And it looks sound. I mean, it looks like it would actually be in firing order with just a little bit of work.
And what does it fire with?
These rifles are designed to fire round balls, perfectly round projectile, the
Like
diameter of the
marble
bore, a marble type.
You get the
And,
difference.
and so this is a small caliber, looks like around 32 to 34 caliber. And they were all unique because they were simply bored out, and whatever that hole cleaned up with, that's the caliber of the rifle. And they made a bullet mold to match the rifle. So
Right.
each rifle had to have its own bullet mold.
Really?
And so these generally stayed with the family, and we really loved to find the bullet bag and horn that would have come down with the rifle, but that,
Notice
those
this has
don't
a-
always stay
little-
together.
A little bit of carving at the bottom of the.
Yes, and this carving is so that when you put a piece of
Cloth.
cloth around this, the cloth will be pushed down into these grooves,
So it's
so it
come back
won't get
out.
stuck, in the board. And so,
But I'm not sure how original
Yeah.
that is to the rifle.
well,
My papa could have
it's,
made that.
it's right, because he's broke,
Yeah.
and it's with it now, so my guess is it's been with it for at least 100 years. So.
Is that
this-
copper?
But
This is wood.
This is wood.
Oh, that's
Just
wood.
usually straight grain hickory,
Uh-huh.
and they would split them out of a sapling or any piece of hickory, but a sapling was more easily split, and that would make a very flexible yet strong rod for ramming the ball down on the powder charge, and therefore also doubled as a cleaning rod.
And you mentioned Burton Oakley?
Ogle.
Burton.
So it'd been my grandfather's grandfather. It'd be my great-great-grandfather.
Well, thank you for bringing it and letting us share it
Sure.
with us here at the
Absolutely.
Historical Society today.
I'm happy to.
Okay. Thank you.
And he saw her. He was real shy, so he didn't say anything to her, but he started writing her letters. And
Yes.
the mailman, who she's mentioned his name in some stories, but I can't remember it.
Crockett Maples.
Maybe Crockett Maple, that's right. He fostered the relationship. He's like,
Yeah.
Lucinda, you need to write that boy
He
back.
was a Cupid.
He's pining for you, he'd say.
I'm going to give you a card, and
Okay.
I'll also have to
I'll
get
give
a
you
telephone number
Yeah.
or a card.
I took my cards out to the car. Well, I might have one in my wallet. Let's see.
And tell us what Lucinda said about the courting and what happened. He
Oh,
came.
he came hunting a bear and he caught himself a deer. And
Well, how
he would always say, "Dear me."
That's very sweet.